I'm here with my friend Paul Mitchell for part 2 of our interview today, and it's been great so far, so thanks so much, mate. It's been really
Pleasure,
good.
Mr. Biv.
There's a book here that Paul is promoting from the London Business School, which is the most downloaded book, apparently.
Oh, the article from it.
Oh, the article from it, yeah. And it's Why Should Anyone Be Led by You? And this is in relation to our discussion on change and transition. So it's all, this next part of this discussion is about leaders. So I suppose, Paul, why should anyone be led by you? Let's talk about that and what makes that up.
Sure. Well, first of all, what a great question, because there are people that are leaders and there are people that actually are leading people. Just because you are the real estate principal or leading a business doesn't mean you're a leader. You've got a leadership role. There's a big, big difference. Yes. So the primary part of this research is that leaders, is the definition of leadership, is that leaders excite people to exceptional performance. I love that. You know, not just engage or whatever, but they excite them. And that could be, hey, that's not good enough, or hey, yeah, that is great, and not just a good or great, but exceptional performance. So, you know, even if you stop this interview right here and ask yourself, what am I doing to excite people to exceptional performance? That'd be a damn good start.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. All right. So on that score, if we're going to give people some points, and maybe we can discuss that article in a bit more detail. What I find is, you know, actually, let me ask you this. When we spoke before, you know, when we were rating performance, you know, 7 to 10 and all that sort of stuff, right? Some things are just some people are born not necessarily great, but with an attitude or an intuition to do great things.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you believe that's the case?
It's a bit like some diseases. You can have a predisposition to it, and then, for example, they talk about, I'm no medico, but they talk about diabetes. You can have a predisposition to diabetes, and then if you have all the things, you do the wrong things, you can get it. I think leadership's pretty much the same. I think there's a predisposition. If you've been brought up in a family and that family talks about serving, that family talks about managing your hubris at the same time, not being too humble, that family makes you feel good about yourself, you are in a much better position to lead than a family or a situation that doesn't. And then, of course, you've got to add the skills. So every leader's born. Show me a leader that wasn't born. You know, every leader's born. Yeah. It's a matter of not whether or not you pick up on the circumstances that sort of help you to get a mindset of leadership from an early age. And I think that's a lot to do with parenting. Yeah.
All right. Well, what I've found with that, because I've got 2 boys, one 24 and one 18, and I'm finding as I'm interacting with them more socially, and not just across the dinner table, but we do social things together or go away together, etc. And it's lovely at that age that they still want to do that. Yeah. I'm finding I see traits of myself in them. Yeah. Not only just in their dialogue, but in their manner. Yeah. Right. And I suppose I want to try and teach the respect of other people, etc. And I see a lot of that, and I'm quite humbled by looking at some of the things that they've done. Yes. So what you're saying is that in that case, when say for instance we're going to breed or educate people to be leaders. Yes. In an environment, then they need to learn by example. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing. Yeah. The other thing is, how do we teach a leader the skill sets of humility, right? How do we teach a leader the ability to be able to be vulnerable? Like, how do we get into that mode where we say, it's okay for me to discuss this topic with you, but how do I actually get you to incept it in your head? What will make me a better teacher to get that person to do those things?
So one of the things, years ago, we used to do a lot of work with Unilever. I think we may have put like 5,000 people through all sorts of tests to go into their graduate program. And I still hold on to this truth, for me anyway, from this very day. Get young kids volunteering. Get them to be a volunteer for a charity organisation. Because they're serving. They're serving. They have no power, okay? The power comes from the work that they actually do. And that basically is what great leadership's about. Leadership is about serving. And so many times we're into our own stuff, okay? And then our own thing. We think our problems are big. Get them around other people who have much bigger issues than they do. Get them serving. Get them in positions where they have no positional power or authority, and it's only their personal power that's going to make a difference. That would be one very, very actionable thing you do.
Great call.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah. That's the old, I read a synopsis from the LA School of Medicine in relation to how to beat depression.
Right.
And they had a placebo, medication, and the people that worked in the soup kitchen. Yeah. And you know what happened?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The people that served in the soup kitchen got over depression a lot quicker.
This is the question that is often asked: happiness versus meaning. Happiness is an instant hit. What's going to make you better? But meaning is a deeper thing, and all meaning comes from looking at what talents do I have where I can better serve the world. This is why, I mean, you quite frankly, you could have easily continued on your leadership path, but you're getting a great buzz from this. It's meaningful for you. You're getting so many.
Learning.
Well, you're learning, but you also a lot of people are letting you know, hey, I'm getting a lot from this. So this is a real deep sense of meaning for you, and it keeps you going.
Yeah. Because that, I suppose, to a certain extent, when we talk about why should I be led by you, that talks about one of the bases and one of the questions I sent you the other day was happiness versus fulfillment.
Yes.
And you were sort of answering that now. You got to my next question before I got there.
Yeah.
But happiness versus fulfillment. So in that is a, can you just enlighten me with your thought process on that? Like, if I said to you, can you explain to me the one difference between happiness and fulfillment?
I think happiness tends to be a self-orientation. Fulfillment tends to be an orientation to others.
Okay.
How do I serve?
Very good.
How do I serve others rather than how do I serve myself? Now, the funny thing, of course, is there's a bit of a reverse that. In fact, the serving of others ultimately serves yourself because you're going to have a more meaningful life.
Yeah.
So it's sort of.
What a great answer. That's a great answer, John, isn't it? I told you this guy's pretty smart.
I want to go back to how do you do it. If we go back to how do you create that sense of excitement, one of the ways you serve as a leader is to create a sense of community. If you get a whole lot of people doing their own thing, that's never as good as a team doing its own thing.
Yes.
And so one of the things as a leader to create a sense of meaning, because we all have a need to be, I want to be an individual and do my own thing, but you also want to be part of a group or part of a tribe. Yes. And that's how I met you, being part of the Dr. Fred group.
Yeah.
So create meaning by actually connecting people together.
Well, I have an example with that. It's funny because over the last year or two, I've done some consultancies for some major real estate brands here in Australia. And one of the things that came out from one of the CEOs, he said to me, he goes, your business didn't necessarily have any superstars in it. But I worked on the modus operandi that I wanted to blend the personalities that I could motivate. Yes. So, we made some great real estate people in our business, but a lot of them didn't start off that way. Yeah. And so he said to me, he goes, oh, well, you were carrying the can in your business. I said, no, I actually wasn't. Yeah. They all did it. I said, but I had a whole range of different skill sets, a lot of them that I didn't have, and a lot of personality traits that I didn't have, but it blended all together. Yes. And I found that worked pretty well for me.
There's a TED talk which talks about this, and I think it's the Canadian Women's 400.
I've watched it.
And it talks about, I think the states had all the best runners individually, but what it was about was baton change. And baton change is the teamwork. And so the old thing is you can have a team of great performers or a great team. And a great team will beat a team of great individual performers every time. Yes. And your job as a leader is to create that community, to create the baton change where people really want to change the baton because they genuinely care about the other person in the race. Yeah.
So it really works on the concept that the leader must serve.
The leader must serve. They must serve. There's three. First of all, they must serve their client or the community.
That's a great line, that.
Yeah. Secondly, they've got to serve the people in the team itself. And thirdly, I think they've got to serve what they stand for. There's a lot of, if you're in real estate, serve real estate. Make real estate important. Yes. I remember when I was with St. George Building Society many years ago, there was a guy called Jim Wills, and he came out and he said, guys, we're not just selling money here. We're actually making it so people can get a home, and a home is a safe place. Man, we kicked ass like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah,
because we had a higher purpose. Yeah. It wasn't just about getting money in, it was about so people could get a home. That's
what you do. Did well.
But that's what I'm saying is don't forget that higher purpose in whatever you do. Yeah. And great leaders are constantly looking at what that higher purpose is. You just told me you came back from Singapore. It stayed in the Ritz-Carlton. The Ritz-Carlton don't talk about this and that. You know what they have as their positioning statement? We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
It's a higher purpose every time.
Yes. Yeah. And the interesting part about that, even the general manager of the hotel, and I've stayed there a bit, general manager of the hotel still made a point to come and see me.
There you go.
Right. And I was sitting there having a coffee by myself in the cafe.
Yeah.
And he saw me from a distance and made his way.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a while. How are you?"
Isn't that great?
And I think that's it. And so therefore that serving, it's the old, I used to go to market with my parents and my grandparents in the fruit markets, and for the want of a better term, I used to use the old humble wog routine. I used to say to people, but what happened was that it's an absolute privilege to be able to serve. It's not your right, and therefore I found great leaders, generally speaking, have that in there. So I think that's one of the lines.
We call it your door, which is your duty, your obligation, your responsibility. Your DOR. Okay. That's your door. I mean, if you're a leader, it's your duty, your obligation, your responsibility to serve and to get better and better at it.
Yeah, very good. Okay, that's great. And I think as far as that goes, this is probably a good book for a lot of people to have a read of. And I think it's also one of those things that, when people look for a Bible of some description.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, you made a really pertinent comment before about getting young people that are committed, like the swimmer or whatever it might be. Yeah. So therefore, one of the things that leaders should look for, because I think leaders should be breeding other leaders.
Absolutely.
That's what I think they should do.
The job of the leader is to develop the leaders around them,
Absolutely.
not more followers. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So on that score, if that's the case, then we need to look, if we look for a criteria of how we pick people, right, then leaders need to be looking for people that are already out there serving the public or serving some voluntary organisation or sports committed where they are having a commitment to something greater than themselves.
What do we look for? So in our coaching, and even whether it's young leaders or old leaders, there are always three things we know are going to make a difference. In other words, the person will learn. Always three things. One, humility. Am I humble enough to take feedback and to see that it can be a different way? That's why some of those younger people you get in, there is a sense of humility because they're trainable, if you like. The second one is courage. It takes courage to change new behaviours, to learn new behaviours. And the third one is always discipline, which is what I was talking about before. Do I have the discipline
Humility, courage and discipline.
Humility, courage and discipline. This is Marshall Goldsmith stuff about, and that's the three things that will make a difference. And three things to look for if you think about, is someone teachable or coachable or whatever, look for those three things. Humble enough to take the feedback, courageous enough to act on it, and discipline enough to have routines and rituals in place to make it happen. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. All right, well, I think, John, on that, we'll end part 2. And what a great way to finish, mate. Thanks very much again.
It's always good to finish. So don't we do the wrestler thing where we do the changeover? Killer Koloski.
Fantastic. That's great.